Thompson. What was the concept?
Good day, guys and gals, and welcome. Today, in the Amber. Oh, sorry. Let me put the microphone a bit closer. Today, in the Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard trial, Amber Heard is finally testifying. I think this is the first time, she's testifying, at least to the public's eyes. If you're not involved in the case, this is the first time we can actually see her testifying, which is really interesting. So let's just get right into it.
What role were you?
That I was that, I was the dream kid. That's what he said.
So did there come a time that you started filming the Rum Diary?
Yes, I'm not quite sure how much.
Hey, what's up, Real Barrett? How you doing, man?
Maybe March of 2009.
And where did you film the Rum Diary?
We shot it in Puerto Rico.
And describe, if you can, the events of the filming and your interactions with Mr.
All this stuff, but it's interesting to watch. Hey, what's up, Jay Wills?
Filming.
Yeah, it is interesting to watch.
I've
watched it almost every day the last like 2 weeks.
So everything really looked beautiful, cars.
And I even dressed up for the occasion.
Music, it was
the tie and everything.
It was a very colorful shoot in general. I couldn't have asked for a better scenario. I was on film. I mean, I was on set.
I wonder how this trial is gonna go. I think it could go both ways.
And occasionally
him or her
John
winning.
And then he started.
You never know with court cases. I mean,
like more open.
O.J. Simpson won, so that just tells you something. Well, earlier I was in class and I got like 5 DMs from Matt Law. Oh, really?
Kind of usher me into this
oh,
car,
nice. So you and Matt the chatting all? That's cool.
And I'd be sitting in the back of the SUV, just thinking what a strange experience the whole thing was. And, we didn't really have a whole lot of interaction on set until we did a scene that involved kissing. We had a kissing scene, and it didn't feel like a normal scene anymore. It felt more real. There are certain things that you do in the job to be professional, like when you have to do that sort of scene, and you don't you don't use your tongue if you can avoid it. There's certain things that you do to just maintain a certain line, and it just felt like those lines were blurred. I mean, he grabbed my face.
I hate Amber's voice.
Into him and really kissed me.
I actually kind of like her voice.
But we were filming a scene.
I mean, overall, everything I've been seeing makes her seem very unlikable, but the voice actually kind of like.
Puerto Rico?
I did. I celebrated, I think, maybe my 23rd birthday there.
You deleted your message?
And what did Mr. Depp do for your birthday?
Well, we were already kind of talking about books and poetry and things like that. He gave me
Johnny Depp, a book reader.
Beautiful poetry
Interesting. Books.
And he gave me a bicycle, like a vintage bicycle, because at the time I was riding around on a bike, and I had a lot of time off since I was a smaller role in the movie. And
she rides a bike.
That was it.
Such a great person.
Now, did there come a time that
deleted? Oh, you didn't delete it? For me, it says message retracted.
Yes, I think there was a.
Maybe because it was a hateful message. You said like I hate. Maybe because of that it got removed. Like YouTube has like a system where messages get deleted if it's kind of sensitive and stuff.
Often with the director,
or vulgar.
Bruce Robinson was his name.
Like even I'm not involved at all. Like,
and then
yeah, that's really weird.
We talk about wine. It's another thing that Johnny and I shared in common: a love for wine, red wine.
Like, so far, I don't think I've ever deleted
about
a comment.
Kind of wine that I enjoyed, and I was, going.
I mean, I've blocked people on live streams, which makes the comments disappear.
I didn't understand
but
how much more
deleted,
sophisticated Johnny's taste in wine was. So I was going on about the virtues of Malbec or something, and I brought him a bottle of this wine, and I set it down. And
this case is gonna take a long ass time. Jesus Christ, they're talking about wine.
Kicked his foot up in the air and basically kind of lifted the back of my bathrobe up. And
Can I just stop you there? Why were you wearing a bathrobe?
because I was doing a scene, it was a period film, so it took place in the 50s.
Now Johnny
So
is
I had
writing
all
a
of
lot,
this,
huh? Before it was Amber.
old undergarments that are for that time era on. And the scene involved me changing. So I had all the costume on. And he kind of picked up the back of my robe with his boot. And I kind of turned around and like laughed, like giggled, you know. I didn't know what to make of it at the time. And I just kind of giggled and batted it away playfully.
I think they're gonna go the predatory route.
He kind of
They've
playfully,
been she's
pushed
been
me
talking a
down
lot
the
about her
side,
young
etc.
age and how
But that
Johnny's
was in his
way
trailer. He was
older.
playful and flirtatious, and he said, "Yum," and he kind of like lifted up his eyebrows like that.
Yeah, they're gonna go the
And
predatory
I
route. That he's kind of a predator.
Giggled, laughed it off, kind of batted him away, and moved on, went back to.
And then you dated him for 3 years, but yeah,
Were you in a relationship?
I don't know
at
if
that
it was
time?
3 years. That was
was.
just me.
Okay. And was Mr. Depp in a relationship at that time?
That was my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. And did anything else of significant happen during that time period while you were filming with Mr. Depp, other than what you've told us?
He touched my bobs and vagina.
We just had this, it was a friendship, flirtatious thing. I felt chemistry. I felt this other thing that went beyond the pale of my job, for sure. Johnny clearly felt that way about me, had indicated to me that that's how he felt in many different ways. But at the same time, we were both in relationships, and it is a job. And
What happened to her cam?
it was intimidating, and I just remember feeling kind of intimidated and a little nervous about that. And
This is
I
where
also
she's
was in a
literally starting, like,
relationship,
she's
so
thinking
we went
about
our
what she's
separate
going
ways
to
and
make
didn't hear-
up.
I didn't hear from him. for a
Yeah,
long time.
compared to how Johnny spoke, I don't know if it's because I'm biased. Like everything I've heard so far leads me to believe that Johnny is on the right. So I don't know if it's because of that.
Had any contact from Mr. Depp?
But yeah, it sounds like hers is more
Contact
thought
include
out, and Johnny was just like
Anything,
talking out of his head more.
Written communications, as well as telephone or
Like
other.
I'm not gonna
we
lie
have no
and say,
contact
"Oh, I don't like
until,
Johnny." I do like Johnny.
he
I've
called me on the
seen a
phone
few of
one
his
day,
movies.
and I was driving.
I think
and he
everybody
invited me
knows
over
the
to his
name
home
Johnny Depp.
in California.
And I like him
Beverly
as
Hills.
like in interviews and
I,
stuff. But I don't want Johnny to win
was
just
out
because
of
it's
work.
Johnny Depp.
I
I
didn't
want
even have
the
his phone number.
person that's in the right to
So
win.
I was
And
very
right now, I
unexpected.
think it is Johnny Depp, at least from
He
everything
called
I've
me a
seen.
second time,
But if something else should
I don't
come
think we
out,
actually connected, or we didn't stay on the phone.
then I guess
because
I don't know. But so far, it's been
well, yeah, we didn't really speak. but
looking
the
like
first time
she
the
was,
only time I actually spoke
lying.
to him, and he invited me over to his house under kind of he said that we could get bruised.
And Johnny's
the
just
director,
annoyed. Yeah, he
to go
definitely
over
is.
Something about the movie, but it was clearly not about the movie. If you know what I mean, it was. So I said, I said my friends are in town, and I'm busy with that, and kind of hung up, feeling really startled. That didn't know what else to do.
Startled, and then you
Gifts did
dated him
Mr.
for
Depp
4
send
years.
you during that time period after you filmed The Rum Diary?
He sent me several gifts. He sent me a beautiful dress, one that I wore in the movie, with a beautiful handwritten note, said "Happy Wrapping," and made a reference to the dress being wrapping paper. He sent me a few gorgeous, expensive, what I can only assume are expensive, collectible books, items.
Jackson's just assuming.
And then when I was away filming on a different job, he he did send me some guitars.
Guitars.
I know one delivery. I was informed about one delivery, and my partner at the time intercepted the attempt to
the partner at the
deliver
time
called me immediately and said, "What should I do?" And I said, send it back, and she did, and she indicated that there was at the time that there was another one
She?
that had already previously attempted
Oh,
delivery,
she's bi?
and it was also rejected. I sent it back because I wasn't there and I wouldn't have accepted it anyway.
Okay. Did there come a time that you ended up having to go on a press tour for the Rum Diary?
I got a call for the Rum Diary press tour in the fall of 2011.
So that's close to 2.5 years after you filmed?
I'm an actress, not a mathematician for a reason. Roughly, yes.
Okay.
Oh, no,
And,
here's your objection
could you
for Amber.
please
What the
describe for
fuck?
the
Yeah,
jury
she
what a
is
press
bi.
tour
Oh, I didn't know
is?
that.
Just explain it to
Yeah,
us.
that was the kind of
We take
objection. She clearly
a
said she's
movie once it's
assuming.
completed,
right?
and if it doesn't have distribution, you, as part of the promotion of that movie, you go to these various places, normally cities.
Look at Johnny's face,
like
LMAO.
London
Yeah, he doesn't.
or
It looks like he doesn't care.
York,
I mean, of
and
course he
you
cares because
do
he's
press
suing
events
her,
in those
but
cities to kind of promote
maybe he
the film.
doesn't care about
You go
what
to
she's
place
saying
to
right
place
now.
talking about the film.
And
But to be
so
fair, like
you were then called
like
to
you were saying, and I
participate
kind
in
of
the
was
press
saying
tour
too,
for
like
the Rum
she's
Diary?
Yes, I had
talking
just,
about not really
I was
relevant
going-
stuff.
I
Johnny
just
was
finished
doing that at the
going
beginning
through
as
the
well, just to
process
kind of
of,
know where he came
separation with my
from,
former
who
partner,
he is as a person,
and I was
and kind of
moving
know more
and
context. Like he talked about his
going through that,
mother,
and
how
I
his
was
mother
saying,
abused him,
"Remember that
about
movie
that
from
stuff.
Puerto Rico?
And
They
if
want
you
you for
really
the
want to get down
press
to it, it
tour."
doesn't really matter to the
And
case.
I
But
said,
they
"Well,
both did it, so
perfect timing."
just to get more context, I guess.
And we did that, I think, late October 2011.
Okay. So describe for the jury your interactions with Mr. Depp during the press tour.
Well, on the first stop, the beginning of the tour was Los Angeles, where we both lived, and we did a press day, normal press day, and then at the end of it, I was invited by Johnny to come up to his room to have a drink with him and the director.
You had a drink with him?
of the
Sue
film.
him.
And
Kill him.
I
That's
went up to the
illegal.
room,
Having a drink with him?
to see both him and Bruce, but as soon as I got there, Johnny said Bruce wasn't going to make it. So I stayed.
He's going to
Johnny and I
rape her.
started
That's why
talking.
Bruce didn't make it.
He asked me about my relationship. I said, well, I'm going through it. I'm going through the separation right now, and it's been, rough couple of months, but that's normal. And he said, well, that's same with me. It's been, I can't remember exactly how long he said it had been, but that he had split from the mother of his kids, and said that he understood.
Right. And then what happened next?
Then we drank red wine and continued to talk, and the talking became us, reconnect. It was like reconnection was almost instant. It was just chemistry. It's hard to explain that, but we sat on the couch and we talked, and it felt like there was it felt like there was an electricity to the room, and it's how I felt when I was alone with him anyway. And it was instant again. I was like, whoa. So on the couch, we talked, finished some wine.
They were on a couch? What?
And left. And as I went to leave, he grabbed both sides of my face, similar to what he did in Puerto Rico when we were filming that scene. And he kissed me, and I kissed him back.
And what happened next with respect to any relationship with Mr. Depp?
Well, then we fell in love. We went on this press tour, and we went. It was a beautiful and strange time. We were flying from one, not together, but going from one city to the next, Europe, New York, Los Angeles, as I said, and we're just traveling around talking about this movie that we did together, that we participated in together, and we were falling in love. I mean, it was just, at the first dinner in London, he sat me next to me. He produced the film and was a part of controlling the film and was responsible
Johnny also
for different
produces
things than I
them,
was
though.
as a small as an actor having a small part in it. And we went on this press tour, and I think in London he had me sat next to him at a dinner, and then we ended up spending the night together in my hotel room. And for the rest of the press tour, it was on. I'll put it that way.
It was on. It was on.
How long approximately did the
it was
press tour
on.
go?
I don't know exactly how long it lasted. I think, there were press engagements in this city for a few days, and then another
I
city
didn't
for a
know
few
she was in
days.
Zombieland.
There was a break, and then there was another press opportunity, I believe. So it was kind of spread out over maybe a month, if I'm guessing.
So when you returned to Los Angeles, what, if anything, took place with any relationship with Mr. Depp?
Well, once we were back from the press tour, we had this, whirlwind romance kind of just in these like beautiful places all over. And
Yeah, the honeymoon phase, right?
falling in love and not able to really show it because the world didn't know about the split between he and his former partner. And of course, as a woman, I was like, is that troubling? And I'd ask him, no, he swore to me that they hadn't even shared a bed for a year, and that they were protecting the kids and not publicizing it. So, or not making it known to the press. And so we kind of had to be a little bit under the radar. Not a little bit. We had to be
Just
really
as you
under the
had to be
radar.
with James Franco, right?
Because as Johnny pointed out, that the world would blame me and call me a homewrecker, even though I had nothing to do with it. So we were secretly dating, and then, it was beautiful. It was, I felt like this man knew me and saw me in a way that no one else had. I felt he understood me. I felt he understood where I came from. I felt that, like, when I was around Johnny, I felt like the most beautiful person in the whole world. It made me feel seen, made me feel $1 million.
She's starting to
And-
cry.
That kind of feeling where, it's just lavish gifts and lavish expressions of love, and how he had never met a woman like me. I mean, I remember he took the foil off of this bottle and put it on my ring finger, and I had only been with him like days, or maybe it was weeks at the time. Yeah, it was probably about a few weeks, but it just felt very intense. But we weren't doing normal life stuff. We weren't like stuck in traffic with each other. We weren't going to the grocery store and doing life. We were like hiding in these places around the world.
That's the best phase.
He has
Right.
so many homes. And so we'd be in one of those homes.
Something
or
special.
My home at the time. And it would be like a bubble, like we were in this little bubble of secrecy, and it felt like a warm glow, as we would say. Just music and the kind of books that we both loved, and poetry that we both knew by heart. And it felt like a dream. It felt like absolute magic.
So while you're dating, I take it you're dating at this point, right?
Yeah,
While
sorry,
you're
if I didn't make that
while you're
clear. Yeah.
falling in love, you're also dating, right? Okay.
Yes.
Did there come a time early on that you ended up going to his Bahamas island?
Bahamas? He has a
Yes,
Bahamas
So
island?
shortly after, we, I think, started dating October of 2011, and as I mentioned, this bubble, where he'd come over to my house and not
Bubble
leave
is
for
about to burst.
3 or 4 days, just smoking cigarettes and playing music and reading poetry to me or painting me, or just talking, and then he would disappear. And there'd be just no way to get a hold of him, no way to contact him.
Disappear.
At first, I didn't really think anything about it, but he disappeared at one point, and then came back and said he was dealing with some health issue, and would I join him in the Bahamas? And I think that's when I learned he had an island, and I was
Island
on
boy.
a trip with a friend of mine in Spain, and it was for the holidays, and I kind of rerouted my trip to
Imagine owning
come
an
and land
island.
in LA instead of, landing in Miami instead of LA, so I could go and meet him on the island. And he had Keenan come and meet me on that trip, like in Miami. I get off one plane, get onto another, and go and join him on his private island. And I noticed he was drinking Beck's.
What is
and
Bex?
Tea.
What is
Like
Bex?
lots of tea. Like lots of tea.
Yeah, I had to Google how to write
and
testify.
didn't
okay, I
foolishly
didn't know
think
how to
anything
write
of it.
testify.
I just,
Testify, I didn't know how to
The
write
man
testify.
really, seriously, I missed it before, but really,
Let me actually use that.
really
bit,
loves
though.
tea. And we had this beautiful, I don't know, less than a week probably, trip in the Bahamas, a private island, beautiful sandy beaches.
Beer.
It's a scene that you just don't, I had never experienced anything like that. It was a beautiful place, a beautiful time. And I fell head over heels in love with this man.
Who wouldn't, right?
So after the Bahamas, I assume you came back, and are we talking now early 2012?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what were you doing work-wise while you were dating him in this early stage?
What I always do, I would be taking job to job to job, going from one movie to the next, mostly not filming in LA. So weirdly, you live in LA to go shoot on location in other places. So when I was in town, we would go back to this bubble, like insular bubble with
The bubble.
beautiful, blaringly loud music, and
bubble, the
no
bubble, the
one
boo.
else and nothing else. And then, I'd go off to work. And so would he. Eventually, yeah, he left to shoot Lone Ranger, I believe.
Lone Ranger? What's
Now,
that?
we've heard a little bit about
Never heard of that.
Ranger, and that's about mid-2012, is that right, when he was shooting that?
That sounds right, mid-2012, yeah.
Lone
And were you shooting anything at that
Ranger.
time?
I was shooting,
Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. No, I mean, I've not seen the movie, but I've
Machete
seen
I
it.
believe I was shooting Machete Kills in Austin.
Images.
I had a small part in a Robert Rodriguez film that shot in Austin. But I think Johnny was shooting and then having some time off, and there was just a lot of travel, a lot of movement, so.
And so what, if any, visiting did you do with Johnny while he was on his set for Lone Ranger, and where was he?
Well, he was filming all over the Southwest, and at some point I came to visit him and on one of his locations, and I would stay in the house because I couldn't really, occasionally I would leave with his security guards, but I didn't really have anything to do but visit him for a few days. So I'd cook and kind of stay at home and paint or whatever and wait for him to come home and have dinner ready. And we would have these little bubbles, but kind of scattered throughout the Southwest as he was filming. And at the time, Johnny had, when I first arrived at one of these locations, it was the first time that Johnny told me that he had a health issue, something with his liver, and that he wasn't, that's why he was not drinking. He was drinking a lot of tea, like a lot of tea.
Okay. And so...
Lot of tea. Tell you already how much tea you drank?
To help Johnny with his boots.
Well, I suppose that I took off his boots, and it made an impression on him, and I was happy to, anything I can do to show love. Certainly how I felt about him. But if he wanted to take off his own boots, he certainly could.
Did you
He
find
smiled there.
lives
That's always good
during
seeing
that time period?
somebody smile.
Objection leading.
sustained.
What if anything did you do with respect to knives during the time period you were with him in the Lone Ranger?
Objection leading.
What if anything?
Overruled. Johnny had a thing for turquoise, and that eventually, being in the Southwest, it can happen really quickly. I also too really love turquoise, and he has
Turquoise are nice.
he loved knives. He loves a lot of things. When Johnny loves things, he does it a lot, and lots of it. So he had these daggers that he had given me that they were beautiful in design. And they're,
I'll be right back. No
mom-curved
worries, Jay.
daggers. And he just talked a lot about knives, had a knife and gun collection.
Handgun.
And was quite proud of it. And at some point, I don't really remember exactly when it was, but at some point I picked up what I thought was a really beautiful turquoise handled knife. And I had it engraved with a saying that Johnny would say to me all the time, which I, thought was romantic, as funny as that is to say now.
And what was the expression, the saying?
Until death, hasta la muerte in Spanish.
Hasta la muerte.
Now, by the time that you're visiting,
I guess now it's hasta la
Mr.
vista,
Depp
baby.
during his shooting of Lone Ranger in the June through August 2012 timeframe, what, if any, relationship has he developed with your family?
Oh, well, starting
fuck was
really
that?
early on,
Purple
Johnny
water?
was so kind, so generous to my family, but especially my mom and dad. He met my dad, and my dad's a big personality. He's a rowdy guy, and Johnny just all of a sudden, I had never noticed, Johnny have a southern, all of a sudden Johnny had this southern accent and was really like buddies with him, and they really seemed to get along very well. They're, just like instantly he was giving my dad gifts. He gave him guns. He gave him knives. They had this,
Everybody guns and
I mean,
knives.
Johnny just really just showered my dad. And my dad's a working man,
I work too.
salt
I
of the
work,
earth
I'm
guy,
man,
he
and
was
I
just
work.
like, floored. He's getting all these amazing gifts and being invited to come on to these locations. And, Johnny's this big movie star. And my dad was just like, I think my dad would have married him himself, not if I hadn't. And he just instantly, he gave my mom jewelry, brought her out to come and see me while I was visiting Johnny on Lone Ranger in some part of the Southwest. I think it was Colorado. He gave her this beautiful turquoise necklace, and I mean, they were definitely taken by him.
And what, if any, relationship had Mr. Depp forged with Whitney by this time, your sister?
I believe the relationship came a little bit later as they got to know each other, but he did the same thing with my sister and just really found
Where are my gifts, Johnny?
bond with.
Huh?
with
Where are my
them
gifts?
that-
No, what did I do? No, fuck. God damn it. I reset it, no.
with them that,
Sorry for
was-
that.
it was, he tried to do anything and everything he could to make them feel like special, and they did. My mom, my dad, and my sister.
And what, if any, relationships did Mr. Depp form with your friends?
Well, Johnny's so generous and can be this really like overly generous almost, like showering you with gifts and compliments and just, I mean, like, and he has access and means to really, we're not talking about giving you a card. We're like talking about just these like extravagant trips or these extravagant gestures, and it's a lot. And he did that with my close friends. I'm relied heavily on my friends, and had a pretty strong support network with them. And he really just showered them with generosity and love, and light and invited them to come to these exotic places and flew people.
Where's my
here and
invitation?
there. I mean, he's incredibly generous.
So going back to the filming of The Lone Ranger, what, if anything, did Mr. Depp do with respect to a horse?
What?
Objection leading.
What, if anything?
Overruled. Johnny at one point insisted on buying me a horse, and I, of course, said that's extravagant. There's no way I could accept that. That's how will I take care of that horse? You know, it's so extravagant. So I said no, of course. Eventually, he got a hold of my dad.
And he bought her a
And-
horse.
Worked it out with my dad, like what kind of horse to buy, and then showed me a picture of this horse and said, "It's yours. It's coming here." I think it was being transported, and he said, you know, that he had my dad's help on it, picking out. And you know, I grew up on my dad's horses. You know, I grew up riding with my dad, so you know, I had resisted for I think about like a month and a half or something of him kind of bringing up the idea and me saying, that's a crazy gift. No, thank you. No, that's incredibly generous, but I couldn't accept to all of a sudden I had a colt.
Colt?
So,
What does that mean, colt?
Let's
She had a
take you
colt?
through 2012 and your relationship. Could you just describe for the jury a little bit about how that relationship evolved through 2012?
It was always
2012.
intense. It didn't become intense. It almost started that way. When I was with him, you know, I felt that electricity in my body. I felt like butterflies. I couldn't, you know, I couldn't see straight practically. It was just, you know, I was head over heels in love, and he felt like that to me. He felt like he was also in love. I didn't feel like he was faking it. I felt like what we had, it felt like to me at the time there wasn't any love like that, you know. I mean, and then he started to kind of do this thing again where he'd disappear and he'd come back. And I remember at first when he first started drinking, I didn't really think
Now
much
she's
of
bringing
it,
up
but all
the
of a sudden
drinking.
the behavior kind of started to go in line with the disappearing, and he'd come back and he'd just be different. And I'd say something and he'd accuse me of saying something else or saying it in a different way, or he would, it was mostly my clothing at the time and me working. That was the main thing. Like, I found myself trying to not talk about auditions because it would change the mood so dramatically. I tried to, you know, he would make these comments about, you know, whoring myself out, but do so in the context of me acting, you know, and he would talk about other actresses who do my role in this way where they were worthless whores, that they were, you know, fame hungry, you know, expletive, you know, just this. The point is, it felt really dirty to be an actor. Never mind that he was one. It was dirty that I wanted to do this job that I wanted to do, and I was doing the job of an actress. It was everything every time I was walking out of the house, he would ask me, "That's really what you're wearing, kid? Oh, I see." You know, I wore a dress to an event once, and I felt beautiful in it. Like, stupid as that sounds, I felt pretty in this dress I picked out, and I showed it him because you know, it's a carpet, it's red carpet, so it's like, you know, publicized, and I kind of thought it was weird he wasn't saying anything about it. You know, I left him to go do this red carpet, and I was like, "Did you see the you know, the event I went to?" You know, basically, I felt pretty, and I thought, like, did you see that? You know, I wanted him to say something about that, I guess. And he said, well, this is after he stopped talking to me for some time, didn't tell me why. When he came back in my life, he wouldn't explain why he was acting different. He just kind of acted mad at me, didn't know what I had done wrong. And when I brought up the dress and the event, because it was an event to support a charity I was really involved with at the time, and
Just like the charity
I
where
said,
you didn't
you know, did you
give
see
as
that thing?
much
And he
money
said,
as you
yeah,
promised?
I think the whole world saw that kid. That's how they'll remember you. That's how the world will remember you. And I was like, oh, come on. I mean, it's like, but it, you know, I felt good in it. I felt good. And he said, yeah, kid, that's what you're putting out there in the world. No one will ever forget that. And that's all they'll see you as. That's what you wanted. That's what you were going for. You know, my dress was low cut. I get it. It's low cut. But I felt, you know, I felt really embarrassed and horrible that I wore that. I felt like, how could I have made that choice? Of course, you know, he's right. You know, you start to believe it. I started to believe that made a lot of sense, of course. But it didn't stop with that. It was clothing in general. And when I walked out of the house, it wasn't just like, hey, you're not allowed to wear that. It was like, oh, really? That's what you're wearing. No wonder you get cast in those roles. No wonder you that's what you are. That's what you're making it. And it continued. And then
So where this case is basically going is
and
he's saying
at first it was just to throw
she
something,
abused him,
some
and
things.
she's saying, nah, it is how I said it.
Loves to smash up a
he
place,
abused
an
me.
apartment, furniture. Is what it started with.
So
Glass.
it's
Threw glass at me.
he or she
and
said kind
it
of
was
thing.
summer.
But the witnesses, I think,
And he just
will be the
threw
thing
this glass
that
across the kitchen, and
will decide it.
it didn't hit me, but it shattered behind me, and I remember thinking that it like very easily could have hit me, and that calling me a whore. It didn't start with using the whore word; it was just comments until it would escalate, and then I started to notice the pattern of escalation where he'd throw glass or turn over a table. Then he would hit the wall, and then he'd hit the wall really close to my head. You know, like when I'm standing there, you know, just hit the wall, screaming at me. But then he would disappear and get clean and sober, and he'd come back and tell me that he was done drinking, he was over it, he was done, cleaned himself up, he had done it before, and
But he
again.
wasn't.
And then he would go back to this like
What did I miss?
wonderful,
A few things.
almost like just unreal, like real.
She
you know,
said
unbelievably,
Johnny always
nice,
criticized what she
sensitive,
wore
kind,
and
warm,
stuff,
generous, interesting,
and that
funny
he called her a
man that
whore,
I loved, and
that he started disappearing,
made me
and
feel so
when he appeared
loved,
again,
like it would
he
get-
was
I would
different,
feel
and he
so
started
distant
drinking a
from that
lot.
thing.
And
That was so scary that I would.
that's what she
Not
said.
even
Not that I'm saying it
recognize
actually.
it,
I'm
too.
just
And that
quoting
was
her.
How, you know, our relationship kind of started to develop in that first year.
Do you remember the first time that he physically hit you?
Yes.
Please tell the jury about it.
It was so. It's seemingly so stupid.
First two things,
so
just petty.
like, insignificant. Oh, never forget it. It changed.
I think this is probably
It
about to
changed
be
my life. I
going
was
to be petty.
sitting on the couch, and we were talking. We were having a normal conversation.
That's
you know,
literally what
just-
happens in Moscow on a
There was
daily
no fighting,
basis.
no argument, nothing.
Yeah.
And he was drinking, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think he was using cocaine because it was like there was a jar of cocaine out on the table.
jar of
I realize it sounds
cocaine?
weird, but it was like an actual vintage jar of it. But I didn't see him use it at the time, so I didn't really factor that in. I just, you know, he's drinking and we're talking, and there's music playing, and he's smoking cigarettes, and we're sitting next to each other on the couch. And I asked him about the tattoo he has on his arm. And to me, it just looked like black marks. I didn't know what it said. It just looked like muddled, faded tattoo that was hard to read. And I said, what does it say? And he said it says wino. It says wino. And I didn't see that. I thought he was joking because it didn't look like it said that at all. And I laughed. It was that simple.
Then he
I
hit
just
her?
laughed because I thought he was joking. And slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought, this must be a joke. This must be a joke. Because I didn't know what was going on. I just stared at him, kind of laughing still, thinking that he was going to start laughing too to tell me it was a joke. But he didn't. He said, you think it's so funny? You think it's funny, bitch? You think you're a funny bitch? And he slapped me again. Like, it was clear it wasn't a joke anymore. And I stopped laughing, but I didn't know what else to do. You know, I didn't know what to do. You would think you would have a response, but I, as a woman, had never been hit like that. I'm an adult,
Woman's
and I'm
privilege.
sitting next to the man I
Not
love.
getting
and
hit.
He slapped me for no reason, it seemed like, and I missed the point. It was that stupid. Second slap, I know he's not kidding, but I don't know what
Is it
else
a
to
joke?
say or do, so I just stared at him. I
I
didn't say
mean,
anything. I
it
didn't
doesn't
react.
come off
I
as
didn't move or
as
freak out or defend myself or
she's
say,
using
"What are you
women's
doing? You're crazy." I just stared at him because I didn't know what else to do. And he slaps me one more time. Hard.
classic.
I lose my
It doesn't
balance,
come
and
across
at this
as
point, we're sitting next to
genuine,
each other at on the edge of the couch.
but I'm
I
not
was on the edge
gonna
of the couch,
immediately dismiss what she's saying.
And I'm
With
all
a
of
heavy
sudden
grain of
realizing
salt.
that the worst thing has just
I'm
happened.
gonna
to me. That
hear
could possibly
everything
happen to
what
you,
she's
and
saying, but
realize that
I think this case is
wish
gonna
so
come
much
down to
he'd
the
said he was
witnesses
joking.
probably,
because it didn't hurt.
because you can't
Didn't
prove
physically
or
hurt me.
disprove
I was just
this.
sitting there on this, on
What she's
this
saying right
carpet,
now.
looking at the dirty carpet, wondering how I wound up on this carpet and why I was never.
I know she's
why
been
I never
many
noticed that
very.
the carpet was so filthy before. And I
God
just
damn it!
didn't
Your
know what
message
to
got
do.
retracted
I didn't know
again.
what to say. I didn't know how to react.
Remember, she's an actor. Yeah, that was
Sat there thinking,
was
how
I
much time do
thinking.
I have till I figure out what I
She's acting very good.
need to do, because God, did he just hit me? No. I
And
didn't
what
wanna
she's
leave him. I didn't
saying
want
does
this to
feel
be the
more
reality. I didn't
as a
want to
performance.
have the man I was in love with. I know you don't come back from that. You know, I'm not dumb. I know you can't hit a woman. You can't hit a man. You can't hit anyone. You can't just hit somebody because they
And what Amber definitely has the
there was no-
advantage
I
of
knew
is
it
that
was
she's a woman.
wrong. And I knew
And if you're
that I had to
seeing
leave.
this,
And that's a problem.
instead of a man saying, no, I didn't do it,
I believe
a
him.
booga booga, then
If
we're
I
gonna
could
believe.
get out of that room, I'd leave the best thing that ever happened to me. And I wish I could sit here and say I stood up and I walked out of that house and I drew a line and I stood up for
It's
myself.
Disney film lines. I wish it was.
I was just looking at the dirty carpet, trying to will myself to get up,
Remember, the carpet was
to
dirty.
walk out of the door because I knew I needed to. And I really slowly, I stood up and I remember looking at him in the eye and just looking at him, frankly, because I didn't know what else to do. And before I know it, he starts crying. And, you know, like, I had never seen an adult man cry. I didn't even
Never?
really see my dad cry at my grandma's funeral. You know, it's weird. And he's crying. Tears, I mean, just falling out of his eyes. He gets down on his knees and he grabs my hands and he's touching my hands and he's saying to me, I will never do that again. I'm so sorry, baby. I put the fucker away. I thought I killed it. And It's done. I thought I put the monster away, and I've done it before. It's done. But on his knees, and I didn't have words. I didn't know what to say. I just remember thinking that it was just, he was crying.
I mean,
Seems
a lot
so
of the
sorry,
things
but I know I
Amber
couldn't
did
just forgive
say
him
have
because
been proven wrong. Like a lot of
Right? That means
witnesses
it will happen again,
have
no?
testified otherwise,
like,
as she said,
I've
with
seen the health
other
class videos,
incidents when
everyone else.
Johnny
I got up in
apparently
my
or
car, I walked to the
allegedly
car.
raged out at her
I didn't say
or
anything.
did
I made a
things
point
that she
to
said.
not say, oh,
So,
it's okay or anything like that. I just didn't say
just saying,
anything.
this is probably another of the
I
one of
went to the
those
car. I sat in my car.
scenarios.
And I felt like I sat there forever.
But it
I
could be
didn't want to
that
turn the key. I just leaned my head up against the
Some
window.
of them were lied and some of
And I
them not.
remember
I don't know that.
seeing
But
my
why would
breath
you lie
on the
about
windshield,
other
you know,
ones?
on the glass of the window.
Some
of
of
the
them
door,
are true. That would be just unnecessary, right?
Seeing my breath and trying to will
don't know.
myself to have the strength.
It could be
to
like still at the end
know
that
what
both
I
were a
should
bit
do in this
abusive.
moment, because
But I think most of the time you don't see that in an abusive relationships. It's
Heartbroken.
more one-sided, right?
and I sat there for a long time, and I eventually turned the key and drove home.
She's not using the bus anymore. That's actually something she said before. Yeah, I was using
yeah.
the public transportation all the time.
I don't know. I don't remember what I did when I got home. I don't remember. I went to my therapist. I told her
Objection, hearsay.
I
Also stated as to what she may have told her.
went home, and a few days later started getting. I actually don't know how many days later, but I started getting calls and texts from Johnny.
Can we see those texts?
Apologizing profusely. I mean, just, he was.
Actually,
he
can
said,
we
"I'd
see
rather
those
cut my hand
texts?
off than ever lay it
I mean, it's
on
one
you or
thing
lay
is
it
some
upon
fact
you,"
if she's
and
saying
had
he
that
said
way
it,
of talking, it felt
like that
like
gets
poetry.
lost in time. But texts
And
could be
he
recovered.
showed up to
right?
talk, like with the understanding that, he understood I could never forgive him, and it was done. So I felt kind of safe in saying, okay, let's have a talk, or, yeah, we'll talk. I think I know I just wanted to see him, and he comes over, brings me gifts. He brought me a couple cases, actually, of that Vega Sicilia wine that we've heard about, which is a really nice, expensive wine that I could never, at that time, dream of affording,
But now she can. Oh, nice.
And we talk.
Nice for
and
her, I guess.
He
Honestly, expensive
tells me
wine
that he
is.
had
We
put
don't need
this
expensive
thing
wine.
away.
My dad is an
I
avid
could
wine
trust him.
drinker,
And it would
and
never happen again.
he himself
Of course,
never
it would
buys
never
expensive
happen again.
stuff.
That he'd put this thing away. He'd killed the fucker, is what he said to me over and over again. I put that fucker away. I killed that monster. I'll kill it again. It's done. I'll never lay a hand on you again. And I wanted to believe him, so I chose to.
Chose to stay in the relationship.
Yeah, I did. I believed it, but I believed it wouldn't. I believed that there was a line he wouldn't cross again, and that was it.
I don't know. Did she
And
plead guilty or
so you
innocent?
stayed, correct? You stayed in the relationship?
Yes.
Okay. So, is this a good time, Your Honor,
You
to
can
break?
keep going a little longer, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So could you please describe for the jury the evolution of your relationship after that time with Johnny?
I don't know how long it was until things.
So
got
when was all
bad
of this?
again.
2013?
He did start drinking again.
A mega
remember
pint, right? Of wine.
it was almost, you know, he'd start drinking again, the disappearing thing, the coming back. He'd come back at, like in the middle of the night to my house. And it would be unclear to me, you know, drunk, often really drunk, and kind of accusing me, but not directly. Nothing was very direct. It was a lot of accusations, but they were veiled. You know, what I was wearing, who I was with, why didn't I text him back? If I didn't text him back right away, this is when I was at my place in Orange, sometimes he would show up to catch me. Like that was a pretext for coming over. And by the time we were done talking, I would have thought I had convinced him that I loved him, that I only loved him, there was no one else, and then that we were back in an upswing and would go back to good, loving, like sick, romantic love, like kind, sweet, velvety love. And then
Velvety
it would
love.
be something I said, why did you say it that way? You know, if I had to leave for an audition, I could guarantee that when couldn't guarantee, but 2 of those in a row, and when I came back, he was angry at me, you know, and I wouldn't necessarily know why. And then he started accusing me of things, probably, like, at first it was indirect, and then it became really direct. Then the punching of the walls next to my head, which is a constant at that time in 2012 when he was drinking.
12.
Eventually that became, you know, him accusing me of cheating. I'd defend myself. I'd say, you know, that's crazy. You're
What about
wrong.
the
I would
James,
never,
Franco?
the normal things. And it would escalate to the point where he would push me or shove me down, and then I'd get back up. And this happened several times. That's why it's not more specific, I suppose. When I'd get back up, I'd look him in the eye. I made a point of getting up and looking him in the eye. It's my way of defending myself at that time. And I'd look at him, and he'd ask me if I wanted to go again, and shove me back down. Eventually, he just hit me. Remember, he hit me in the face when I denied having an affair with my ex-wife, my ex-partner at the time. And he said he had proof. I denied it. And I was walking out of the bedroom, slapped me across the face. I turned to look at him. And I said, Johnny, you hit me. You just hit me.
I'm going to ask you, Michelle, can you bring up 1783, please?
What number again, please?
I'm sorry,
What number?
defendants 1783?
1783, thank you.
What's she drinking? Purple water?
Do you
New?
recognize this?
Just like Crystal
Picture.
Coke, now we have purple water.
Yes, I do.
And could
No,
you tell
Crystal
us what it
Pepsi
is?
was right.
It's a picture of my face with a note that Johnny left for me by the coffee. Typically is where we
Can
put
we
notes
see
like
it?
that.
I hate it when they
Is this
talk about the
accurate
picture, but
when
you
you
can't see
depict
it.
the scene portrayed?
It was one of those scenes. As embarrassing as it sounds now, I don't know which scene this came from. There was a lot. It escalated quickly, fast, and it became.
Amber, let me ask it a different way.
Thank
you. Is this a picture of you? Is it an accurate picture of you?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of 1783.
Your Honor, we have an objection. May we approach?
Sure.
They have an objection. Oh my. Yeah, I think probably gonna end it here. I do wanna watch it further, but the thing is, I do have to wake up very early tomorrow, which is really unfortunate. Because I wanna play video games, I wanna watch this, I wanna watch shows, but I can almost do none of that. But at the weekend, right? The weekend. So yeah, I guess this is a good place to stop when they stop speaking. But yeah, it's gonna go on if you wanna check it out on yourself. there's multiple channels streaming it. There's the Long Crime Network, I think. Yeah, he had Deep Dive, True Crime apparently, and all the others like news channels I think is streaming it right now. And of course, me myself, a very distinguished gentleman, is also streaming. But yeah, thanks to anybody that will watch my stream. I don't know if this is something that's enjoyable to watch me reacting to this case. I like watching it because I think it's really interesting.
Jury,
But yeah, I don't know if
some
it's
of the
good
cycles
content.
you had with Mr. Depp
And if
through
I don't want to do it in the future
2012.
because I don't really add anything to it because
So,
I'm not.
In
I can just give my
2012, the
opinion,
violence
and I don't know how
was,
valid my opinion is in this
you know,
matter. You know what I
relative to
mean?
what it
Because
became,
it's
pretty-
very subjective. I'm like not involved in legal things at all.
slapping,
just my subjective
backhanding. Well,
opinion.
it went from
But I guess if you care
it
about
went
my
from
opinion
this
or
eggshell
have a similar
kind
opinion,
of, you're
or
walking on
even I
eggshells,
think if you
nothing you're
disagree,
doing
it's
is
interesting to
kind
have
of
it.
right, but you don't know what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, I DM it.
And then I was doing
What does that
something
mean?
wrong clearly, but it was unclear within the scope of an argument what I was defending myself against.
But yeah,
so it would
as I
shift
said,
from,
I really
a
appreciate it
rumor he had heard that I was
for
with,
watching it.
a
You
friend, or I had been
J
photographed
and
as
Mr.
too close
XD
to a male person.
Games
That was a
YouTube.
person that
That's
I
a-
had had something with. And
I don't
was
mind it.
talking
Oh,
about,
okay, nice.
and the-
Because I don't know.
the
I'm usually do
the
gaming
eggshells,
related stuff or
accusations,
about
and then he would
movies.
explode.
So
It
this
started
is
with
kind of
throwing
out of my
things,
scope.
Destroying
Of what I
the property
usually
and
use, so that's
screaming
why I
at me.
said
I
it.
remember
But yeah,
screaming at me
at
was
least for now.
the
See ya
worst,
later.
'cause I kind of always felt like
Bye bye,
I
and
had
have a good
done,
one. Really
you
appreciate
know, I
you
had
guys.
to defend myself. I
And
had
gals,
to tell
of
him
course.